What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. Okay, so now we got Exodus 32 lined up, and if I'm understanding things correctly from last chapter, then basically God was, at least for the moment, done giving commands to Moses to then give to the people. So round 2 of that is done, which really a lot of it just had to do with the tabernacle, and a little bit at the end about the Sabbath. But now, I guess we're going to get into other things that may be happening, kind of further down and or off of the mountain. But whatever. Let's just get right into this. So, Exodus 32. When the people saw how long it was taking Moses to come back down the mountain, they gathered around Aaron. "Come on," they said, "make us some gods who can lead us. We don't know what happened to this fellow Moses, who brought us here from the land of Egypt." So Aaron said, "Take the gold rings from the ears of your wives and sons and daughters, and bring them to me." All the people took the gold rings from their ears and brought them to Aaron. Then Aaron took the gold, melted it down, and molded it into the shape of a calf. When the people saw it, they exclaimed, "O Israel, these are the gods who brought you out of the land of Egypt." Aaron saw how excited the people were, so he built an altar in front of the calf. Then he announced, "Tomorrow will be a festival to the Lord." So, if I'm remembering right from a previous chapter, I had the impression, at least, that, round 2, so to speak, of the instructions God was giving Moses was going to take, like, 40 days, if I'm remembering right. Certainly a lot longer than the first round. And, really, I think it was, I don't know, I still find it kind of odd that even though it was stated outright before all that went down, at least I think, that the people still sort of got impatient. Although I don't know if it was really, I don't recall if it was stated to all of the people that, Moses would be back up on the mountain for like 40 days. But anyway, whatever the case is, while all that was going on, possibly near the end of it, I would assume closer to the end than the beginning of that time, the people just got impatient and were like, as they've had a habit of doing, kind of forgot about all the things God had done for them previously, and were just like, okay, this is taking too long. I don't know what happened to Moses, but he ain't coming back. We're not sure if he's ever going to come back, so maybe this God that we, had thought we could trust shouldn't be trusted if he's going to take our leader away from us and just kind of leave us here wondering what to do. So anyway, they get impatient. They ask for Aaron to make a god, little g god, aka an idol, for them that they could then worship. Long story short, Aaron gives in to their demands because I guess there's a whole bunch of people and he doesn't really want to get on their bad side. So he makes the golden calf. They seem... It's basically like they start treating this golden calf as the god who actually did all this stuff for them. So then Aaron sees that they're pleased and is like, okay, well, then let's, commemorate this, build an altar here, and, throw a big party to celebrate. But anyway, okay, I think I've rambled on that part of things for long enough. So let's get into verse 6. The people got up early the next morning to sacrifice burnt offerings and peace offerings. After this, they celebrated with feasting and drinking, and they indulged in pagan revelry. The Lord told Moses, "Quick, go down the mountain. Your people whom you brought from the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. How quickly they have turned away from the way I commanded them to live. They have melted down gold and made a calf, and they have bowed down and sacrificed to it. They are saying, 'These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt.'" Then the Lord said, "I have seen how stubborn and rebellious these people are. Now leave me alone so my fierce anger can blaze against them, and I will destroy them. Then I will make you, Moses, into a great nation." So, reminder that, after sort of day one of commands were given to Moses, he wrote them down, including the 10 Commandments and different things like that, and told the people, here's what God expects of you. Do you agree? And they all said that, at least, the group in general agreed that, yes, we will follow these rules. We will enter this covenant with God. But then, not even 40 days later after, or while, I guess, God is giving Moses more instructions, they completely go against that, making an idol for themselves, worshiping another god, and yeah, so they have turned away pretty quickly, and so now God's like, all right, you know what? They said they were going to agree to this covenant, that they were going to follow my rules. They've gone back on that. I'm going to kill them. But then we get to verse 11, and we'll see what happens from there. But Moses tried to pacify the Lord his God. "O Lord," he said, "why are you so angry with your own people, whom you brought from the land of Egypt with such great power and such a strong hand? Why let the Egyptians say, 'Their God rescued them with the evil intention of slaughtering them in the mountains and wiping them from the face of the earth'? Turn away from your fierce anger. Change your mind about this terrible disaster you have threatened against your people. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You bound yourself with an oath to them, saying, 'I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars of heaven, and I will give them all of this land that I have promised to your descendants, and they will possess it forever.' So the Lord changed his mind about the terrible disaster he had threatened to bring on his people." Okay, gonna pause there real quick. So, I'm noticing that God, in his anger when talking with Moses, kind of does the, well, you're the one that brought them out of Egypt, they're your people, so since they're not my people, I'm okay with, being angry against them. But then Moses tries to bring it back around, like, but God, these are your people. You brought them out of Egypt with your great power and your strong hand. Why are you going to let, the Egyptians and other peoples of the earth think that, you brought your people out into the wilderness just to kill them? So, it's almost the whole, bickering parents oh, your son did this. Oh, your daughter did this. That kind of idea. It's funny how, maybe not always funny, but it's interesting how, depending on the mood or the emotions of people involved, that their wording can change rather quickly, and blame gets placed in other places, and like, I don't know. There are some times when God's personality, especially in the Old Testament, seems far more human than we would think it should be. But that might just be, the human that might just be, the human understanding painting a picture of things. But anyway, a footnote here about, the Hebrew being Israel instead of Jacob, used interchangeably because they're the same person. But I guess here, at least in this version of the Bible, they're more inclined to use Jacob when referring to the person, as to help avoid confusion between Jacob/Israel the person and Israel the nation. But anyway, so God got mad. Moses pleaded with him and basically said, hey, this is your doing. This is your people. You shouldn't kill them because they're your people who you delivered, and it's going to make you look bad if you do this. So God changes his mind. I'm going to air quote that. I don't know if I should air quote it because the Bible doesn't air quote it, although air quotes probably weren't really so much a thing. Anyway, I digress. Okay, moving on to verse 15, I guess. Then Moses turned and went down the mountain. He held in his hands the 2 stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant. They were inscribed on both sides, front and back. These tablets were God's work. The words on them were written by God himself. When Joshua heard the boisterous noise of the people shouting below them, he exclaimed to Moses, "It sounds like war in the camp." But Moses replied, "No, it's not a shout of victory, nor the wailing of defeat. I hear the sound of a celebration." When they came near the camp, Moses saw the calf and the dancing, and he burned with anger. He threw the stone tablets to the ground, smashing them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf they had made and burned it. Then he ground it into powder, threw it into the water, and forced the people to drink it. So, I mean, maybe a little bit of God's anger coming off onto Moses here, but it's rightfully so. But still, God was planning on, killing them, where Moses is just, angry and, destroying things that were, markers of their wrongdoing, their turning away from God. Terms of the covenant, tablets of the testimony, yeah. Again, covenant and testimony basically they're basically the same thing, at least in Exodus here. Especially when talking about, terms of the covenant. But anyway, so Moses sees them celebrating and worshiping this golden calf and dancing around it and whatnot. Is mad because they've turned away from the Lord and destroys the calf, grinds it up into powder, and then makes them drink it. So, yeah, it's almost like Okay, you really like this golden calf so bad? Here, drink it. Like, consume it. Literally take it into your body if you like it so much. It's almost like an extreme version of the old childish, like, if you love it so much, why don't you marry it? But, like, a similar idea, but definitely executed differently. But anyway, okay. So then we get to verse 21. Finally, he turned to Aaron and demanded, "What did these people do to make you bring such terrible sin upon them?" "Don't get so upset, my lord," Aaron replied. "You yourself know how evil these people are. They said to me, 'Make us gods who will lead us.' We don't know what happened to this fellow Moses who brought us here from the land of Egypt. So I told them, 'Whoever has gold jewelry, take it off.' When they brought it to me, I simply threw it into the fire, and out came this calf." Like, Aaron just sounds like it was like, oh, they gave me this gold, and it just formed the calf on its own. I didn't make it or anything like that, even when he definitely did. Like, the more you read the Bible, the more you see the humanity in a lot of, the important figures that we tend to think were, so godly, or holy or righteous or whatever similar term you feel like using. They had good moments, maybe even a lot of good moments, but they were still people. They messed up sometimes too. And they had the same kind of bad habits of, shifting blame, of, giving into pressure and, self-preservation, other sorts of things like that. So, verse 25 then. Moses saw that Aaron had let the people get completely out of control, much to the amusement of their enemies. So he stood at the entrance to the camp and shouted, "All of you who are on the Lord's side, come here and join me." And all the Levites gathered around him. Moses told them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Each of you take your swords and go back and forth from one end of the camp to the other. Kill everyone, even your brothers, friends, and neighbors." The Levites obeyed Moses' command, and about 3,000 people died that day. Then Moses told the Levites, "Today you have ordained yourselves for the service of the Lord, for you obeyed him even though it meant killing your own sons and brothers. Today you have earned a blessing." Okay, but 3,000 people was not everyone. So or maybe it was more like, how you'd have, a sprint going from one end of the field or gym or whatever to the other and then back. Maybe it was that kind of idea where it was just like, okay, he was just going to have all the Levites take a single pass out one way and back, and anybody they came across, they were supposed to kill. Maybe that seems like it makes the most sense of all of what was said there. But anyway, so while God was going to kill everybody, Moses still commanded some to die. It wasn't everybody, but it was still a good chunk of people. But yeah, so the whole golden calf thing did not turn out to be such a great idea. But, a sin like that, just outright turning away from God and practically forsaking God for some, crafted idol. Yeah, no, that's bad stuff. That's, even if we today don't, immediately get killed for something like that, long term, it, leads us further along the path of sin, leads us basically to our eternal fate apart from God. If we, continue to follow those ways and do those things. Especially, continually going away from God and either, ignoring or forsaking or whatever the actual, true God who created the world and all that. Let me check the footnotes here. Moses saw that Aaron had let the people get completely out of control, and they mocked anyone who opposed them. Meaning of the Hebrew is uncertain. So that would give it a bit of a different feel, because then rather than bringing other people, outsiders into the mix, because they were out in the wilderness, nobody should have really been anywhere near them who could have, attested to these things happening. Going with the other version of it over here in the footnote makes it seem like, the people who had gone astray and went out of control mocked anyone who opposed them. Which would then also make even more sense that Moses would, separate the people who were loyal to the Lord, in this case the Levites, and command them to go and kill the others who were, who were at this point then mocking them and, basically saying that they were, that the Levites were in the wrong or whatever for continuing to follow the Lord. But anyway, another footnote down here. So, today you have ordained yourselves is, as in the Greek and Latin versions, Hebrew reads, today ordain yourselves, rather than saying you have ordained yourselves. So, the tense would be a little odd there, because it's going from like somewhat of a past tense, or it would be going then from like a present tense command to do this thing, going to, past tense, but I don't know. Anyway, point is, the Levites, in staying loyal and, following this command of Moses, basically executing punishment on the people who went astray, they set themselves apart. And I mean, the Levites were already supposed to be in line for the priesthood anyway, right? Or something like that. Or am I getting that mixed up? I mean, because was Aaron supposed to be of the tribe of Levi? I think so. So maybe this was just a broader group, because, Aaron and his sons were specifically supposed to be priests. We covered that just a couple chapters ago. But, the Levites maybe being the broader extended family, so to speak, also sort of joined in this effort to right the wrong of God's people going astray and worshiping an idol. Anyway, okay. About time I wrap this up, I guess. Or at least go through the last few verses here. So, verse 30. The next day Moses said to the people, "You have committed a terrible sin, but I will go back up to the Lord on the mountain. Perhaps I will be able to obtain forgiveness for your sin." So Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Oh, what a terrible sin these people have committed. They have made gods of gold for themselves. But now if you will only forgive their sin, but if not, erase my name from the record you have written." But the Lord replied to Moses, "No, I will erase the name of everyone who has sinned against me. Now go, lead the people to the place I told you about. Look, my angel will lead the way before you, and when I come to call the people to account, I will certainly hold them responsible for their sins." Then the Lord sent a great plague upon the people because they had worshipped the calf Aaron had made. Okay, so Moses goes to, seek God, see if God will forgive the Israelites for their sin. And God basically says, before I get into what God said, so Moses basically says that if he won't forgive the people, then, so erase my name from the record you have written. I don't know if that was more so Moses being like, trying to say that he didn't want to be part of God's promise and part of the covenant or whatever if he wasn't going to forgive the people. But I don't know. But in any case, either Moses was saying he didn't want anything to do with that covenant afterwards, or that he was just trying to say that, all right, he wanted to, kind of separate himself in the record from the rest of the people. I don't know. Anyway, but God, I think, is basically telling him at this point, no, I'm not going to do anything to you. I'm just going to, I'm going to get back at the people who, sinned and disobeyed me. And, they're going to get their just reward. So I'll forgive, but I'm also going to bring some punishment here. So anyway, and I assume this plague was, if not the entirety of that punishment, then certainly a part of it. But also it's like, hey, maybe they're actually going to move on from Mount Sinai now, because God's like, hey, look, my angel's going to lead the way. Go lead the people to the place I told you about. Forgiveness could also be read as atonement. Okay. And I think that wraps it up. All right, so that does it for Exodus 32. Kind of getting more actual, progression of events. And once again, I'm a little bit baffled by how quickly the people of Israel seem to, keep turning away from God, despite all the things that he's done for them and all these clearly miraculous signs that literally no other being could do. And yet, like, all it takes is, like a month or so of nothing really happening and feeling abandoned or whatever. If I can get my words out. Abandoned. And they just kind of say, yeah, we don't know what's really happened, so we're going to make our own god here. Yeah, that doesn't turn out very well for them. Like, they agreed to not make idols, and yet they turn around and do that anyway. Like, not that long after. Just shows that even God's chosen people were very much flawed. Anyway, okay. That's all I got for now, lest I ramble on and get on a complete tangent. So, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video, subscribe and click the bell to get updates when I post new ones. Look down in the description for info on other social media pages, as well as my Twitch page, channel thing, because I'm streaming both here and there right now. Trying to make it work. Hopefully it does to some effect. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, all that info is down in the description. And of course, down below that, leave any comments that you have, whatever those happen to be about. So anyway, that's it. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next chapter. But until then, stay cool, people.